government. The other day, I opened and read it. It was them giving me credit. They took note of every single rapper that I shredded and said I broke records with the local paramedics. I was like, bet it. I got a fetish for these funerals. Getting letters for lyrics, a bonus as per usual. Usual suspects.
Welcome back to Bomba Live, the talk show you've been waiting for your entire life. Thank you so much for joining us. Follow Bomba Live on our social media channels. Subscribe to our YouTube page and subscribe to the Bomba Live podcast anywhere you can upload a podcast. And I'm here on this part 2 of this exclusive interview with independent underground hip hop legend Planetary from the group Out of Space, Army of the Pharaohs. Someone that you've seen you collaborate with some of the biggest hip hop legends over the last 25, 30 years. Including Vinny Paz, our brother, and so many other hip-hop legends. And we wanted to have a moment, again, the hip-hop philosophers here with me. And so I just wanted to give you all a sense of his perspective on how some of the legendary figures of hip-hop that, to most of you, frankly, are probably names, and maybe you've seen them perform at a club or at a concert, but are people that have had a direct connect in Planetary's life and then oftentimes in a very personal way. So, Mario, let's start with this, that the first thing we want to throw out is someone that is still so relevant to us. It means so much to us on so many levels as Philly kids. Jazzy Jeff, bro. To me, if it starts with anybody, it's Jazz, man. Talk to us about your very special connection with Jazzy Jeff.
Well, listen, Jazz, you really don't get much more legendary than Jazz. That's the GOAT. DJ probably of all time, period. Yeah. Forget Philly. He's created so many things, and he's never. The one thing that I know that I learned about Jazz that you don't see in many people. He's reached huge. He's humongous. He DJ'd the Grammys. But at the end of the day, he's always stayed on the floor, on the ground.
I was telling people he's the biggest Philly celebrity that lives in Philly. Still.
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
He always stays. He's always on the ground. You could run into him. You can. Sat One, another legendary.
Gotta shout out Sat, my man.
That's how we met, like through through the game, but through him more. And one day we were at the studio where we used to work out of was Jazz's building, Touch of Jazz, and there was a studio in there we used to work out of. And we met him through there. And we sat in the studio one day, and nothing came up music. We was just talking. Yeah. Regular life. He was showing us his Japanese Air Max 97s, brown that he got from Japan. Cool shit. But the one thing I can say about him is he's just always been a regular dude. You don't see Jazz, you'll see him at the Sixers game. You'll see him anywhere.
I have so much love, and it's not hyperbolic. And y'all got to understand. I know some of y'all know me from kind of a national Latino political frame, or Puerto Rican leadership frame, or just this guy you see that makes these interesting conversations about stuff. But you got to understand, that really the Black community and the Black artistic community of Philadelphia, literally raised us. And another time we'll get into my dad's history.
Right.
And
that's a fact.
But you can't tell the Collazo story without talking about. And I know some of y'all are going to be a little freaked. Patti LaBelle, Gamble and Huff,
Barry White,
Teddy Pendergrass, Jill Scott, talk about our generation, Jill Scott, there's just so many, all the radio announcers, Bahamadia, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to honor that in this conversation, that there's not too many Latinos around the country that can honestly state, and it went beyond music, fam, politics. The Black community were the first people that gave the few Latinos around, including our parents, some of the first city jobs. Mm-hmm. Sports. Right. When we were little, Joe Frazier's gym was walking distance from where we grew up. Mm-hmm. Drive by the pink Cadillac. We're little kids. We could pop our head in there and see Marvin training to fight Tyson. Temple. Oh, come on. John Chaney. John Chaney. Don Hack.
we were raised in that world.
We were raised in that world. Real quick on the basketball, of course, got to shout out our great friend Aaron McHugh, who's a dear personal friend of ours. That is part of that tradition. That me and our other brother Michael Collazo went. The first time Allen Iverson played basketball in Philly in a Sixer uniform was the summer league team, and they played at Temple's campus against the Philly All Stars, Sunny Hill League, local summer league stuff. So it was Allen Iverson with the other draft picks. And me and Mike were looking in the crowd, packed arena. Everybody wants to see AI, you know what I mean? And there was this one little spot. So we're like, all right, we'll sit here. We look up, and the reason nobody sat there is that's where Rasheed Wallace was sitting. Oh. And everybody was too shook to sit next to his feet.
Right.
So we watched this game with Rasheed. Talk about Philly legend, Philly basketball legend, also in the hip-hop game. And it was just his analysis of how, basically AI is all that, and the rest of these guys suck. But that's the culture we're from. You got to understand that. Yeah. And Jazzy saw the epitome of that because all these people were talking about the humility. Yeah. That these are global stars. Look, global. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have my little scratch. But that humility is such a big part of what defines us, and that love and that embrace that these artists and these legends have given us. Another local group, talk about real Philly, legendary, and we talk about the Puerto Rican part of it. The school people about Tuff Crew, dog. What Tuff Crew mean to you? I mean, we might tear in this conversation.
Tuff Crew was what, 88? Trying to set the record straight. Whatever, it's 88, right? Yeah, so I was about 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, all that, right? Tuff Crew. I gotta go back to Funko Mart.
Yes.
Because Funko Mart for me,
yes.
For those that know, it was a big record store. My dad had his hands in that and getting that set up for the guy who had it.
Yeah.
I stayed in there.
Like Puerto Rican.
I went to Roman
hip hop, freestyle, Southside. Yeah,
I was always downtown. I went to see Chino all the time. What we got? I collected vinyl back then. That's where I got my records, freestyle records. Yeah. Everything we used to get from there.
Yeah.
So, in that, Dad being a DJ, he had the record pool. He was in the record pool, so he would get all the records in the mail, and Chino would give him boxes, all that stuff. Tuff Crew. I heard Tuff Crew through, I guess, radio. I would say it's probably where we would hear it. Right?
I don't even remember. It was so organic. It felt like it was all over the place.
I wanted to bring Funko Mart because I believe it was the vinyl that you got. I think it was just like, here's the new stuff. These guys are from up the block, or whatever it was.
DJs on the Puerto Rican North Philly tip, DJ Shazam was part of that too. Pushing shit out anyway. But a lot of names. A lot of names.
Sure. Yeah, those street mixtapes.
Yeah.
But Ice Dog, like when people say like, who's your top 5?
Talk about it.
I always say like the Chuck D, Coogee Rap, Big Pun, Jay-Z. I always say that. But really, he's in my top 5. Because
he was nasty.
When it comes to influence,
fuck the Puerto Rican. He was fucking nasty.
When it comes to influence,
yes,
he was probably my first real, the Coogee Rap thing was probably first because that was right before that.
Yeah.
Just hearing like how he put all those words together, I was like, this is just insane. Because I was used to LL at that point. Where not that LL wasn't nice, but he was more basic word wise. Like the wordplay wasn't so like
LL. A lot of it was being clever and swag. You know what I mean?
The double time and the putting a lot of words in a short amount of time.
And for the youngsters, I think thinking about like Drake. In a sense, LL was the first like real good looking that the women really liked. It was that kind of
and he could spell
star. Yeah, he was the first star.
He was the first star. You had Run DMC.
You had the groups.
Yeah,
you had the groups.
And all that,
but he was the first star. And he was the one that really merged like street credibility with the girls,
with the ladies,
you know what I'm saying? Because there was like guys that could rap, KRS, Cool D, all these guys he ended up battling on some point, right? But he had a different level of star power,
right? So the thing with Ice Dog was being that he was from the neighborhood, but you didn't. Me personally, I never saw these guys. I see like Two Tuff. I see him now. Towards the left. Like I see him all the time.
Yeah,
but hearing him. And back then they used a lot of break beats, so they already had the drums like all the legendary break beats, and Ice Dog had that voice, and he was not like he was spitting, like the New York guy,
and he had a great voice.
Like you always compare everybody. Oh, they sound like they up there with the New York.
Yeah, guys, but Ice Dog was distinct too. Like he didn't sound like anybody.
He sounded like no one.
Yeah,
no one. There's never been another one. There's never been another.
To this day, that's true.
And I know that they would I think we mentioned off the camera. There's a thing on Instagram somewhere or on YouTube where PD Crack's in a session with him, and I think Too Tough might have posted it. Whatever it is, I saw it, and he's basically saying the same thing. Like, yo, like without you, I don't even know. Like, for Ricans and even the blacks in the community, everybody, because they had Tone Love, they had
the white boy,
they covered, you know,
they covered everybody. North
Monty
Philly, South
G,
Philly,
they had Monty G,
yeah, South Philly too, yeah.
Right.
They weren't a neighborhood group, they were like a Philly all-star group.
Right.
You know,
a lot of people don't know Monty G's the Eagles guy. You know, like with the hat, that flappy hat. But anyway, so Ice Dog is probably, he's 100% in my top 5,
no doubt.
But he's in my personal top, like influential.
Yeah,
I wanted to be him at one point. Like, there's guys I love, but I know like I want to be like that. You know, like Black Thought, Nas, Q-Tip. At one point, I was like, I just want to be like these guys. You know, like I got to be this good. You know, like
see, that's how I feel about Fife. Me,
well,
you know what I'm saying.
Talked about Fife, in terms of later in life. You realize Fife had the lines.
He was my spirit animal. You know what I mean, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So I almost kind of like graduating from Ice Dog and Tuff Crew. You're well in the game when this guy comes out, well in it. And of course, before you, there was, you know, obviously on the hip hop side, Crazy Legs and the break dancers, and you know, there's a handful of Puerto Rican hip hop legends we can mention here, Prince Marky D, and you know, and a few others. But then you're already in the game, and then Big Pun comes into our lives. Talk to us about Christopher Rios.
Let me tell you about Big Pun. The first time I heard Pun was on a.
I almost want to crack a beer because this one's like personal. You know what I'm saying?
The first time I heard Pun was, I believe it was a Tony Touch mixtape.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
If it wasn't Tony, I think it was a Toka mixtape.
Or it was on that Beatnut song. It was one or the other.
No, it was a Tony Touch mixtape because the verse he did ended up being on the album later, but it was like it was already an underground verse that you heard. And he was also on Wishful Thinking with G-Rap and Fat Joe.
See,
it was like a remix or something. I forget. But whatever. There
was a couple hints.
Whatever it was.
Whatever
it was. I might have that wrong. I think that might have been G-Rap and Raekwon. I don't know. I forget. But he did something. You know. Then he was on DITC. So you were hearing just verses at one point, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, this dude's nasty, but at that point you don't know who he is yet. You don't realize, like, well, you don't know what he looks like.
Yeah,
you
don't need his
Puerto
Rican.
You might know that because he probably said it.
Yeah,
but you still like you didn't get the impact yet.
Yeah.
But then when Fat Joe said, "Okay, you're in the front, I'm in the way back because you're about to be the guy," right? I don't even have to explain how good he rap. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, like he's one of the best. Had one of the best pens ever in the game,
no doubt.
But the reason he was so important was at the time. You had Latino rappers, you had Cypress, you had the Beatnuts, you had guys.
Fat Joe.
Game, yeah. You had guys. But none were like this. Nobody had this pen. Like it wasn't close.
No.
Everybody was dope. That's not taking away from nobody because I'm a fan of all of them. But Pun, being a person who writes, I was just like, shit. Whoa. Like, like he made people like, oh shit, damn.
Yeah, because it's one thing for a Latino rapper, and look, we still deal with this to this day, this issue, because there hasn't been a Pun since. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, So, like,
right, that's a fact.
And there's one thing for a Latino rapper to kind of be competitive. Going back to your point, like competitive on like a general hip hop level, but to be competitive with the Nas elite artist level,
the elite writers,
the elite writers, and that can spit.
Right, and the thing is with Pun, the reason he was so important was because there was people like me. There's a lot of underground guys. There was a lot of like Rest in Peace, Pumpkinhead. There was people like that.
Thurston Howard III,
like people like that were doing their thing on
a million West Coast guys. On the level they were on. Psycho,
like the level they were on, but nobody. Even Fat Joe at that time still never got to where he is now. You know, like he didn't have lean back and all that yet.
Yeah.
He has that Pun existed. Like it made him like people go, okay, well, he's gonna.
Well, I've heard Fat Joe talk about how Pun pushed him on his writing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he said, okay, you can't be around me. You gotta keep up. You can't be on tracks with Pun and not keep up. You have to do the best you can. You know what I mean? But it was important because I think he breathed confidence into people like me. Like, oh, so we actually can get to a big point.
Yes.
Like Pitbull. Pitbull got to like he was a regular guy. He was a spitter. But he blew up and did went the route he went, but still he got it. He was able to get to that point. and that was the importance with him. Obviously, he was one of the best rappers of all time, and most dominant rappers will tell you like Pun was just another level. Like it was really hard to like you on the track with him, you assed out. Like I'll just do the best I can.
Yeah,
because he's gonna burn me on.
Pun
that.
was nasty. Pun was
but
nasty.
he put the confidence in the Latino community when it comes to the rappers. You know, he breathed it. He big time.
Now the guys that were before him, the first Latino group to go platinum before Pun as the first solo artist to go platinum, who was a big influence on me, Cypress Hill. West Coast, bad East Coast swag.
Listen,
came out of nowhere.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you a moment in hip hop that was huge for me. And you were with me during this.
Yeah.
Videos were starting to be on TV and all that stuff. And How I Could Just Kill a Man video came out.
Oh my God.
Right? The video's
Changed
in New
the
York.
game, dog.
It's in New York. So you're like, okay, you got what everybody thought was Mexicans at that point.
Yeah.
You got these Latino rappers that aren't from Bronx.
Yeah.
Or Brooklyn or Manhattan, whatever. They're from the West Coast. They got East Coast beats. Muggs was from New York. I think it was Long
Cypress
Island.
Hills. That's the neighborhood.
Right.
Queens,
That Queen, Long Island, whatever. So you had the East Coast beats with the West Coast rapper, which you didn't hear that yet. That hadn't happened yet.
That's right.
Like, and then he got the Be Real had this crazy voice. Then you had like their whole dynamic was crazy. You had the Sen Dog had the
with the bass,
the bass, the ad libs.
Because Public Enemy. Tonal, I'm not saying this right, but from a tonal perspective, was flipped because the main MC Chuck D had the bassier voice.
Yeah.
Whereas the hype man,
was
Flav,
was flipped.
Was the guy,
yeah,
and it was flipped with them.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, it was flipped. But a big thing for me, and I always remember this moment was seeing that video. It was in the middle of Manhattan, and you see Cypress, you see Cube.
Yes.
Was in that video. Then you see Q-Tip. And then later on, you hear like, "Oh, that wasn't even set up like that." But we just went to do the video,
and
said Cube's
some of the
town.
homies were around.
Tip said, "I'm going."
And this is before all that West Coast, East Coast shit. Everybody was cool.
Yeah, everybody was cool. So one, you got the guys that look like us. You got the East Coast beat. The songs were ridiculous. Like Real Estate, How I Could Just Kill a Man.
I always thought Black Sunday, their second album, was very underrated. It's one of my favorite albums.
Hand on the Pump. So many songs on there. Latin Lingo.
Yeah.
But that Cypress Hill doesn't get enough credit because I've toured with Cypress Hill. I'm gonna go.
You'll be with them out in Europe, right?
We're gonna be with them again.
See?
Mike came to Switzerland with us one time.
Yeah.
Met them. Hung out with Sen Dog. They're great dudes.
Yeah, no doubt.
But the thing that they don't get the credit for is like, they're still here.
They're still humongous.
And they're still humongous. Like
go to Europe, go to Latin America.
Don't get that they just headline festivals with 40,000, 50,000
I'll take it further. I don't think you have. I think their cultural influence in what is now a mainstream cannabis movement.
Right. Oh, yeah.
We wouldn't have cannabis at this point from a legal perspective and like a cultural acceptance without Cypress Hill.
Nah,
that's the kind of cultural impact they had on a whole other political issue side of music.
Right. And they pushed hard. But then you have they have a cult following.
Yeah.
So I remember they had a show at the Electric Factory, 7th Spring Garden, right? How do you don't know how big Cypress is here. You don't really know, right? Yeah. It's hard to gauge. I mean, they had people camping outside. There's drugs everywhere. There's people in the alleys. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, this is like...
They are the voice of a subculture.
They are. And it's like they don't get...
No doubt.
They do get credit. They do get the credit they deserve in hip-hop, I guess. But it's bigger. It's bigger. I'm like, yo, these are not just like... They're still here. Like, you don't understand how hard it is to be... My fault. You don't know how hard it is to do what they did at the time they did, and still in 2023.
But you're doing it.
Still,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know how hard
but
it
I'm
is.
saying the impact, they still
continuous.
They can still do the Electric Factory today and pack it, sell it
and
out.
They can collab with like Pitbull, Mark Anthony on a song, which they've done.
Right.
And they can go to Latin America, and they can do Spanish, and they can do Europe. Listen,
when we hung out with them, they headlined it. They hung out with everybody. Then they DJ'd the after party and partied with all the people. And they're just great dudes.
And to this day, talking about the legacy of Pun and Cypress Hill in this way, unless I'm I don't think I'm wrong in saying this. There still isn't a West Coast Latino group that's gotten that level.
There's nobody really that's got not
on that level.
A handful of people that's gotten on that level.
Yeah.
Period.
But you know what I'm saying? Like in 2023,
and that's the thing. I think there's a lot
that's
of
the
people
legacy
that
of Pun and Cypress Hill.
And I think there's a lot of people that don't understand that because, like I said, there's a world that nobody knows. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, I think your average person wouldn't realize how significant Cypress Hill is today.
Like,
or if you're young, you don't know how big they were.
Because
Cypress Hill was humongous.
Right.
When the West Coast,
and then they did the rock thing. They merged with the rock, big rock bands, and
a lot of people followed them doing that. Ice-T, Vinny.
Right.
A lot of people. They started that movement.
They started that movement. Yeah, there's just so much with them.
Damn, that's
they
true.
Need to get.
See, that's why y'all gotta
get the props they deserve.
Y'all gotta write your notes when you watch Bomba Live because we go to levels y'all didn't even know existed. Some of y'all watching like what's Cypress Hill. Y'all need to look it up. Much respect to the guys.
And I'm trying to get out of space with Muggs. Because Muggs does these collaborative albums with people.
And you've been on his mixtapes over the years.
We were on Soul Assassins too, his album. But
there you go. Yeah.
I've been trying to breathe it. I've been trying to manifest this through Twitter.
Give us a couple of names, some of your LA buddies that are part of that scene that have been grinding with you over the years.
Sick Jackin'.
I know a lot of y'all watch.
That's Psycho Realm.
Psycho Realm.
You know Cypress, you know Psycho Realm. They've been there since the beginning of Cypress.
And those are your homies, our friends out there.
Jackin', absolutely. My man Ern, who's like an engineer, he rocks with them.
See, I know the LA people are like, this is mind blowing right now.
Yeah, there's just so many.
That's part of the family, the extended family.
Yeah, there's so many.
Give me, as we wrap this up, give me one more artist that maybe someone would be surprised that had a big influence on you.
That they would be surprised. Oh, that's a good question.
Or just someone else you want to make sure we mention in this conversation. I mean, we can see it all day. He's toured with everybody. You got to check out Project Pluto coming out May 12th. Planetary's first full solo project, doing it with his sons, doing it with the family. With Element produced this entire project. King Charisma appears trustworthy. It's going to be very special.
I got a good one. I compare him to Kobe.
Ooh.
Redman.
Okay.
To me, he's Kobe because he's probably one of the best spitters to ever spit it. He's got the charisma.
No doubt.
He's got the personality. He's got the beats. He was with Def Squad, Eric Sermon. He's with the best of the best. I just shared a video of his where he was somewhere, I think in South by Southwest. Little deep, like killing
still
it.
Relevant,
Still everybody's still rocking with him.
Absolutely.
Good dude in person. All these things, right? You know how like people say like it's Jordan, LeBron, Bill Russell.
Yeah.
Some people go, but where's Kobe?
Yeah.
That's Redman. You go like, oh yeah, it's G-Rap, it's Rakim, Jay-Z.
That's a good
whatever.
point.
But what about Redman?
Yeah.
You know, like Redman. Redman brought the personality.
Comedy.
Remember MTV Cribs? It was like
comedy.
he was the only one with a little hood apartment still. And he said, I got the big crib.
You know, it's funny because when you think of comedy, you think Eminem.
Right.
But Redman really.
Yeah, but listen, you to ask Eminem where he got that shit from, he's gonna tell you Redman.
But that's what I'm saying.
I mean, they got songs together where you can see where Eminem's heavily influenced by Redman.
Yeah.
But he'll tell you.
But that's what I'm saying.
What's that Redman?
Oh yeah,
his favorite. We don't front. But I always say he's like the Kobe because you're like, damn, you can't put how's Red not in somebody's top 5 or 10? Like, he gotta be, like he has to be. But it's like, depends how you look at it. And that's how it's always kind of with Kobe. Like, Kobe shot a lot of shots.
I think also too
he took a lot of shots, but like, but Kobe was still a beast.
The collab that he always connected with Method Man elevated both their legacies.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And then they built one together too.
And that's what I'm saying.
So they have their separate ones, and then they have their.
But for Redman to be able to connect with arguably the biggest MC of the Wu-Tang clique, not be Wu-Tang, but then almost set up like a separate brand.
Which is weird because how did they go with the Wu-Tang sound? How did that match Redman? You got like Eric Sermon and you got RZA. It's not nothing. It's not even close to the same.
I know people are watching this, by the way, and they're like, "Why does this guy not have a podcast talking about hip hop?" Told you.
Well, we could do this. Let's just create one like this. But anyway, so Redman's Kobe, man. He's the Kobe of hip hop.
Yeah, I gotta
let that sink in.
I mean, Fife is kind of on a personal level, really important. Big Daddy Kane, and legend status. If Big Daddy ever watches this, definitely one of my top favorites, and meant a lot to the game. Talk about underrated. So Big Daddy, kind of like in that LL era, not quite as commercially successful, but not bad. Big Daddy, you could argue was the first complete artist because he was a lyricist. He had a great voice. Nasty. Like street. Had the shit with the girls, had that chocolate lover shit.
Yeah.
Could dance.
Yeah. In a suit.
And had the street credibility. Yeah, like I think about, we're not gonna. I mean, I'm not drawing an analogy to Bad Bunny, but in terms of when people say, "Well, why is that guy so big?" I'm like, well, he can play with sexuality, but then he can wrestle, and then he could do shit with like the nastiest trap street guys. And it all works.
Yeah, if it all works.
But Big Daddy Kane, I would put in that category too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And a great guy too. And also a
real good guy.
And I think we galled that. The other thing that I perceived, and you performed with him, I was honored to be there in the crowd with you and Greg Nice came out, Beat Nuts and all that.
That was BB King's.
That BB King's in New York a few years back.
Yeah.
A lot of my West Coast guys were there that night watching it. But that he was one of the first like MCs in the 80s that really put a lot of work into the art of the performance.
Yeah. He was a master
like stage,
a master of ceremonies.
Because it took a minute.
MC.
Because the music, Crush Crew, we're talking like, like it was a local art form for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Like it evolved. I remember the first before School ED, like the first Philly hip hop was so bad because it was so new. You know what I mean? So it took me a minute to kind of get caught up with the good stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of legacies, and that's why, we have to continue these conversations, Mario, because to get your perspective and your son's perspective, we want to bring them on the show because about how hip hop culture impacts them now as being kind of like second, third generation of it. How Philly culture, you talk about Meek and I mean, that whole ecosystem, state property. I mean, the list goes on and on. And then, and we've talked about this a gazillion times on Texas, is that the sort of the state of U.S. English-speaking Latinos in hip-hop is a weird space to be in now because we haven't had a pun Cypress Hill figure in a while.
Right.
And then the flip side, our Spanish language primos have taken over the industry.
They've taken over everything,
And so it's like, what does it mean? What does it mean for hip-hop in general? Like, what does it mean for Drake and them is one thing. Plus, where does the fit? And we got a lot of homies. The Texas cats are in this conversation. I know on Clubhouse, the LA cats were always talking about this. Like, and there's plenty of talent. So it's not like the talent's not there. But it's like, how do we sort of make sure that all of this talent in this culture is being supported?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, because if you have to still go back to the old heads, that's tough. You know what I mean? Because if you're relying on like Fat Joe and Be Real to put everybody on, that's not gonna happen. So, and there's some other young boys out there, and as we go into this, we want to support a lot of people. So, let people know again where they can check out all your music, catch up on the catalog before Project Pluto comes out on May 12th.
I'm at Planetary AOTP on everything: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, everything. The first solo album is Project Pluto. It'll be on everything: Spotify, Tidal, Apple, whatever you use, YouTube.
And you got plenty out of space.
I'm gonna have catalog. I'm gonna have physical too, like CDs.
Okay,
and
that's
stuff
like
that.
That's what's up. For our DJs out there, you're gonna have physical.
If you follow me on all those, I'll have links to them coming up soon.
No doubt.
Element and Trustworthy. They have
King Charisma.
The Book of Applewhite EP. Y'all really got to check that out. Like, I'm super impressed by it, man. Like, that's all I've listened to. Like, Lloyd Banks came out with an album, and I was hyped about it, but I'm like, no, I'm still listening to the boys. I can't even get to Banks yet. Marcus got a single out. He got an EP out, Murder at the Met Gala. I mean, it's just talent.
It's funny because
so
I'll tag every time your sons come out with stuff. I tag people that know, and then some people that are kind of in the game. You know what I mean? Like my man George Regilo Torres has been a promoter. Thrown a lot of shows in New York over the years, and people I respect in the West Coast, and they're like, "Who is that?" I said, "That's my family." They were like, "What?" And to the point, one of the things I was so proud of when we did Bomba Life 2 is like a good chunk of the people that are part of the show, from your sons to like the cook Tiffany to Adi, the fashion designer, like Ella, the ballerina. Like a lot of these people were like my blood family, like just in the family, and in our network. How much talent there is. So we got to support each other. And that's why these platforms so important. Mary, you're my brother. I don't know what else to say about it. You know how much I love you, care about you, and I'll be there, support you in this and his album release and next. I'm so happy about the solo project. I can't wait to hear these tracks. Even I haven't gotten leaked copies.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
like-
saying? I
yeah.
mean, this is like, you know.
like Dave, my brother-in-law, Dave King Size.
Yeah.
He's like, yo, send me it. I'm like, no. Why? He's like, come on, man. What does it matter? I'm like, man, get it on May 6th at the party. Go
May
get that.
12th. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Planetary. Good luck.
Yeah.
Keep